Hotep and build muscle. Are y'all ready? Let's
go.
get it. It's lit. Y'all already know, Thomas Jefferson been told you, a strong body makes the mind strong, and no one has been putting that to like more practical, like right in your face use than our guest tonight, Jimmie Doss Hotep. What's up, my ginger?
What's up? Salute. Great to be here. I'm happy to be here. So let's go.
This is awesome, bro. I'm so stoked. Like I got a chance to meet you in person in Vegas at Hotep Con, and I been watching you kind of tiptoe your way into Hotep. I'm froze
for just a second. You're back.
Okay, I've been watching you kind of tiptoe your way into Hotep Nation because I found out when we were at Hotep Nation weekend that you came to Hotep Nation via the one and only, the great Sonny Johnson. Shout out to Sonny Johnson. Happy birthday, Sonny Johnson.
Yeah,
today was her birthday.
She killed it.
I called her. I called her on the phone today. Called her on the phone today and sang her happy birthday and everything. But so you came to us that way, and I've been watching you just kind of like build your own sort of your own outlet, I guess, for Hotep Nation to see how you can make this, getting your body in shape and keeping your body in shape and getting stronger and stronger and stronger part of your everyday routine. And like nobody grinds like Jimmie Doss Hotep. Like it's not even close. I told everybody, like, if you're not the MVP of Hotep Nation and deserve a grifty for that, you at least deserve a grifty for being the most improved player.
I appreciate that.
So
I'll take the grifty. The fitness grift is what grift. I'll take it. So
there you go. Yeah. So shout out to the grifties, sponsored by Men of Order. But we're so pumped to have you on. I got so many things to ask you, so much stuff to talk about. But first of all, like, how you been? How's everything going? It's been a minute since we talked, about a month or so since we talked, face to face. So how you been?
Things are good. Things have been crazy. I live in the desert and I'm trying to get out of here. So we're in a transition phase between me and my family. I'm married. I have a 10-month-old and a 4-year-old and 2 boxers, and we're in transition trying to make a lifestyle change that would put us in a position where we're not so reliant on governmental things. And I'm happy to come on and share any of that stuff. Like when we're doing something, it's all about the next progression for me. Like, and the progression is taken. The health and fitness aspect has really, it's exploded what I want to do overall. And I mean, life is good. 10-month-old, 4-year-old. It's crazy times. Like, we all have busy lives. And so that on the fitness side of it, as busy as I am, I want people to know that they can find that time in their lives to get stuff done. Like, the grind is important. Like, it's about you at the end of the day. Like, we're being the best people we can be, and fitness is a huge part of that, especially in my life, especially from where I came from, like the transition.
Yeah.
So
well, so we're hold on, we're gonna talk about that in a minute. But first, so I want you touched on something, and I want to kind of connect these two dots for me, because one of the things, so like with Men of Order, one of the things that we've done, we've been trying constantly to bring people in who fit kind of the direction that we're trying to lead things by through masculinity and like healthy masculinity and those sorts of things. But what we've also started to do is build coalitions with people, and one of the partnerships that we've built is with career hackers. And Joel Bain is one of the guys he's the CEO now of Career Hackers, and he has this thing that he says all the time. He says, learn out loud. And what he's talking about is, like, when you're doing stuff, if you're learning something, learning a new skill, like, there's nothing wrong with like putting it out there, doing a video or putting a tweet out or whatever. Use the social media for something positive that helps to like build and helps to people see. A lot of times people, and I'm one who can actually attest to this. I see someone going through something and doing something and making progress in it, and I'm inspired to like learn whatever that is, or to beef up my skills if I used to do something like that and I haven't done it in a while. I want to get back into it. It's inspiring. I remember myself watching Karate Kid for the first time. I was like 10 years old. I think it came out in 84. I'm 10 years old. Like I immediately went home and started like trying to do karate. Like, I never took a class or anything, but I'm trying to do crane kicks and all kind of stuff, so when we see this stuff, like there's an inspirational part that comes from watching someone else, even if, and I think in some cases, I would even say, especially when we see someone who is, like Joel says, loud, because when you see someone who they're not perfect, this isn't Tony Robbins you're watching telling you, hey, you got to be like, dude, you're already a multimillionaire. Like, what can I possibly, how can you possibly relate to me? I know maybe way back when you and Gary V, were doing some really in the mud grinding type shit. But I want to get with the people like Jimmie Doss, who I'm watching the progression as they work through the mud and are building their way through it. So talk a little bit about that. Like what inspired you? Because look, let's be honest. You've put some stuff that's very personal and a lot of people would be very sensitive about putting that stuff out there, but you've done it. And I'm actually like, I'm inspired by you. And we've talked about this. I've talked to other people and I've shown them some of the stuff that you do to help inspire them, because I know a guy who like, he dipped below 300 for the first time in like 10 years. And he was like talking about it. And I was like, bro, keep it going. You got to keep it going. Don't give up. Don't stop, because you're on to something. What do you have to say for like why you did that and what keeps you doing it?
Okay. So it's funny because this journey is not short by any means. A lot of people don't know when I started. I sent you that picture, and my start year was actually 2009. I went on a cruise with my cousins to Mexico and was planning on having an absolutely awesome time. And I didn't. So I was like, oh man, we're going to go and hang out with girls and do all these things at the beach. And I'm going to get sunburned. And I was like, everyone started doing stuff. And I was like, I can't do that. I'm going to be sick. Like I can't keep up with you guys rolling up the hills in Mexico, like hanging out with all the girls in the bars and like all this stuff. And I mean, I wasn't trying to be crazy, but I was trying to be crazy a little bit. So, and I just didn't have a good time. So, and I'm one of those people that when I was in 8th grade, I was over 300 pounds, but I was always the big kid that was blessed with good friends. So I was in a position where I just never struggled with being a people person. Like I always enjoyed people. I had great friends growing up. And when I realized I could have even more fun with my friends and the people that were important to me, if I started losing weight, then that's when I decided to make that transition. Like before that, people had offered to pay me. Like my grandma and grandpa wanted me to be like super healthy. And they're like, man, we'll pay you $10 a pound if you start losing weight. And I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And I lose 2 pounds and I'm like, I'm done later.
Yay, $20.
$20. Let's go. Whataburger, here we
with
come.
That. Exactly.
It's like,
so, and
I don't know
so
if you
started
have Whataburger where you're from, but it's horrible. If you're trying to lose weight, it's the worst thing you could possibly. Do you mind? So you sent me this picture, but
do it.
That's what I was
For
actually
sure.
doing
right
now.
So here we go. So this is what you're talking about. This is November 2009. You're on this cruise.
Yep.
And then to the right, like when is that? Is that like current, or is that like
that was like 3 days ago.
Or that's 3 days ago. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So you see the difference. You see the transition here, the transformation. But so all right, so they would offer you money, and that wasn't.
It just wasn't it. Like
a lot of times, I think people try to like convince people to do something that they haven't decided. It's just like alcoholics or anything like that. Like when you hit your bottom or whatever it is, or you find that motivation that says like, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. This isn't me anymore. What triggered that?
You know, I was in college, so it wasn't necessarily the things that are important to me now. That's been a transition, but it was. I was kind of lonely, not because I didn't have great friends. I had great friends. I had great family, like all that good stuff, and I just wanted more. I wanted some more companionship. I was, it just from a perspective, like nobody wants to be with the fat guy a lot of the time. It's plain and simple, like, and it's not necessarily from that perspective, but from a men of order perspective, if I was a woman, I would want to know that I'm with somebody that can take care of me. Like, and as a bigger guy, somebody that's more shy and timid, like, you might not get that vibe. And it doesn't mean that's not the case, but I mean, I'm sure I put off that vibe. So
yeah, and as somebody who's been, I've been relatively large all my life as well. And just so you know, you have inspired me, and I don't know how much weight I've lost, but I'm on that track as well. I have a little bit bigger challenge because I have arthritis in my legs and makes it more difficult. And then we'll get into how I can get over that later, but I have lost weight, and really, what you say about that for a bigger guy, I got lucky. My wife's beautiful, but trying to find somebody when you're a bigger guy is a thing. And people say, oh, but women are supposed to like you. No, they don't. They care. Women care if you're fat. They care if you got a big dick. It is what it is.
That's what I was gonna say when you said you've always been a bigger person. I'm like, depending on what we're talking about.
but no, just put it out there. You were one of, and there were many things that inspired me, but you particularly, and I think I told you at the time, were one of the people that inspired me. You know what? I'm gonna be serious about this. I'm gonna lose weight. I cut out a bunch of carbs, and have gone to primarily eating fruit and vegetables through the day. In the evenings, it's not that I cut out all of the carbs or anything like that, but I've way cut back, and I cut pop out entirely, and I'm drinking a crap ton of water. So like I said, I guess maybe where for people like myself that have some difficulties with exercising my legs, where should I go?
So just you saying that, like right now, that's motivation for me. Like when people tell me that they look at me and they see the positiveness in my life that they want to transfer into your life, there's no greater compliment to me than that. Like I'm humbled by that. Really, I am. Like that means the world. I'm glad to be in the position where I can hopefully instill that to people. And that's in the future, if I can do that through Anarch Fit or Hotep Fit, like I'm about that. Let's go. So when I was 400 plus, I didn't move very well. Like legs didn't really want to work, like all that stuff. So I had to start slow. I started on bicycles. I started on, those hand things that you see where you're actually like pumping your arms more than your legs. Like if you're breaking a sweat and you're killing calories, then that's a great workout, regardless of it, whether it's arms, legs. If it's in the middle and you're doing crunches, you're laying on the ground. But if you start sweating, you're burning calories, number one. But the biggest thing that you just said was eating. If you can get your calories under control and you can find a system that works for you, so one of the most dangerous things I think that we've done is we've put everyone into that pyramid. Like the standard American diet pyramid that we see, that thing is a lie, and it does not work for the majority of our people. Like today, we have the ability to have food at any time that we want that we shouldn't necessarily have. Back in the day, everything was cyclical. Like you didn't have the greenhouses of today where you could have fruit all year round. Like a lot of people ate meat. There wasn't the sustainability of shelf life of things, like the preservatives that we put in things. I would say stay away from that. If you stayed away from one thing, like the sodas, it's not the soda itself, it's whatever else is in it. Like we talk about the vacation and the chemical compounds that make up those things. We're doing the same thing when we eat. We're putting chemicals in our body that are not designed to be there.
Yeah, right.
So, and if you can cut out preservatives, if you can eat natural and eat healthy and find what works for you, that's above any exercise you're gonna do. Like you can't outrun the bad diet. Like that's the cliche thing to say, but it's absolutely the truth. Like we're not meant to eat bread all day, every day, because I mean, it goes rotten, but today you can have it on a shelf for as long as you want, whether it's seasoned or not seasoned. So, and again, people can do different things. Like it's not a one size fits all either. So I would say food.
And so one of the other things too, that kind of brings that into focus is when you look at other areas of the world, like America is somewhat unique in this respect, in that like you go to Europe, you go to Mexico, and you can have people eating a lot of the same things. Like you can go to Italy and you can eat a bunch of bread, you can drink wine, you can do all the things that we would do over here, and suddenly like your body's not as inflamed. You don't have, like, there are certain things that they don't use over there, all the herbicides and other chemicals and additives and genetic modifiers and all this other stuff and the preservatives, like you said, having all that stuff as part of your diet, if you can find a way to steer around that. But then yes, ultimately, if you do one thing, if you simply like look up your basal metabolic rate for your caloric intake and figure out, okay, I can survive if I don't move. I can survive on this many calories a day, and like live like roughly there and do some exercise so that you're actually at a caloric deficit. You can start shedding weight. I did, and I kind of need, like, I went through my pre-Hotep Con get ready, and I failed miserably. I wasn't where I wanted to be. Next year though, like, watch the hell out. I'm thanks to you guys for the Hotep Fit Challenge. I'm gonna be in the gym, and I have been this week more regularly than I have been. So I'm on that. But like, I've done it in the past where like I think I lost 28 pounds or something like that last summer, just by I was eating 2 salads a day, one with meat and one without, for like, I don't know, 2 months, and I just like, it just went. Now everybody, not necessarily everybody can do that. I realize it's not, everybody's body's different, and you can't just be like, oh, this is the formula, plug it, put this number in, and this happens. But it certainly helps start to move in that direction. And the other thing I would say, like for Marcus, you're talking about like some of the physical ailments or issues, limitations that you might have. A lot of this stuff, if you're just moving, if you're just doing like body squats, push-ups, sit-ups, like that sort of stuff, just moving your own body weight around is a lot of times enough to do it. It doesn't have to be under any kind of extra weight or resistance or anything like that. You can just maneuver your body and move your joints. And I know some of that stuff's going to be painful, but you have to find the exercises that don't cause you pain, and then stick to those.
Yep. For me, the hard part's coming up. I'm very blessed. Because we have a garden, so we have, and it's all organic. So summertime is glory time. I get like, I had fresh squash. I had tomatoes. I had all kinds of great shit tonight for dinner. My wife is an amazing cook. So I'm blessed in the summertime. I'm missing my berries because we got blackberries that grow and those kinds of things. But going into the winter time, we can, but we couldn't, healthily exist on what we can. So for me, my biggest concern is about to hit, because we're supposed to get down in the 40s this weekend. And we've been still, like, I went out and harvested today and got a bunch of tomatoes, a bunch of green beans and stuff. But going forward into the fall, I don't get that as much, and I'm gonna have to go to the grocery store
for sure. And I'm a meat guy. A lot of people, I'm a weird meat guy. So part of sourcing, what I do is I find a local farmer, and so I'll just tell you, my diet currently since last May has been carnivore. So the only thing that this is going to sound really crazy, but the only vegetable I currently consume are capsaicin, anything that's chili related, vegetable wise. I do meat, and what I did is I sourced a local farmer out of in New Mexico, 60 miles down the road that had cattle. Well, and I just filled my freezer because price per pound, I was going to get a better deal than if I shopped for half the amount of meat at the grocery store. And I would rather give my money to the farmer.
Yeah.
So meat is one of those things that I think again, nothing I say is for everybody because everybody is different. But for me, when I switched over to the current diet I'm on, I dropped like 90 pounds. But I was watching my calories still, and I'm working out like crazy. Yeah. So like Chad said, 3,500 calories is a pound. Like that's science. It's a at least as far as I've heard. If you can cut that 3,500 calories and you're coming in under that, and you're burning your calories just to live, you'll lose weight. Like, but it's
can't help
you
but
break
lose
yourself?
Weight. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
It's the willpower thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And
for me,
finding a. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. For me, I love meat, and my wife is a vegetarian, but I'm not. I eat the hell out of meat, but I can't do beef. Because I have gout. So, I've considered. We're not supposed to in the town I live in. There's an ordinance, but I've been considering because I don't pay attention to what the heck these fools say. But I've considered growing or raising chickens. Do you think that might work?
Absolutely. I'm going to send you an article. I'm going to send you a study on gout. There's a lot of things scientifically that have gone through the medical community that I'm not so sure that they have. Like there's studies with gout, but they'll blame it on if you're consuming beer and you're consuming beef at the same time. But unfortunately, a lot of these studies, they leave out the fact that a lot of people that get this stuff are eating other things included. So they'll point out the meat and say it's the meat, but in my opinion, and just from some of the research I've done, it's not necessarily the case. So again, this is my tinfoil hat. Like
beef again.
Yeah.
Gout is urea hydrochloride. Is that the
right?
Or uric acid or what?
It's uric acid.
Uric acid. That's right. Okay. Yeah.
And there's people that change some other things like that have shown some really. That maybe it wasn't the beef in the first place. Like some of those chemicals that we get that are in the vegetables, which don't apply to you, which I'm going to think about after this, but it's not necessarily as simple as the beef. Sometimes it comes with other things.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing for the gluten intolerance. I think so much of what people are dealing with is a glyphosate intolerance. They're spraying chemicals all over all the wheat crops, and then people are like, I've got a gluten allergy or whatever. Like, are you sure it's that? And you sure it's not a glyphosate allergy? It's because again, you go to Europe where some of these things are banned, and I know we're anarchs and everything, but like I think that it's kind of interesting how you have on the one hand you have Europe banning all sorts of stuff, which has its positive benefits for some.
The market would ban it if it wasn't government.
But, right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Over here, you have it's not that we don't ban it; it's that we let these corporations we just let a different set of corporations run our government.
Yeah.
They have a different set of corporations running theirs, so it's a whole it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But the reality remains that if you can avoid some of these either pesticides or preservatives or other chemicals and enhancers, quote unquote, that they put in this stuff, you can keep yourself from a lot of inflammation and like unnatural growth that like can cause some of this weird shit to happen.
Right. I mean, even beef that you're going to get from the store, a lot of that is shipped in from other places. Like a lot of people don't realize a lot of our meat comes from Australia. It comes from different parts of the world. Like if I go get my beef 60 miles down the road, I know that farmer, what he's using. Like I know what he's not using. And I know the cows aren't as big as they were. If I get a T-bone from the store, like it is a different paradigm. Like they are producing food for the masses, and that comes with things that we don't see.
Well, and I've talked to a farmer. So there's at one of the places where I work, because I travel a lot, but one of the places I work, one of the operators there, he was telling me, he's like, look, man, if you want, he's like, I can set you up. We start from like calf to when it's full grown. I said, you pay me $800 and I'll feed it and I'll raise it and everything. And, within, whatever time frame or whatever, he said, by the end of that time frame, you'll have half a cow for $800, and he said, you go price that somewhere else. You're going to pay at least $2,000 if you buy that stuff individually. All the T-bones, all the ribeyes, all the fillets, all the ground meat, everything else, like up and down that cow. And you think about it, and it's like, well, shit, if I have to buy a $130, $150 freezer to put it in, it's worth it. Like just to be able to store that stuff. So I totally get it. And I think you have that control over where you're getting it from. That's
exactly.
I may be able to kind of get around it too, because I have access to Elk Meat, which is also beef and deer are also supposed to.
That's good. I
might be able to maybe give it a try and see if the elk, like just little bits, because man, when I get a gout attack, that shit sucks. But absolutely, but I might be able to try a little bit and see it, like make that little something out of the elk meat, and it's like hamburger, it's ground. It might be able to test and in a small amount and see if that works, and then start investigating that, because I'd love to be able to get back. I haven't eaten a hamburger in probably 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I would say it, like I said, I'll send you some literature on it.
Awesome.
And I know there's parts of the switch that are hard, and there's parts of switching anything that's detrimental. Even if you come off of your vegan diet and you go to something that's like balanced, it's going to have not you, but just in general. Some meat.
Yeah.
So I think you should do chicken and fish and any of those things. You said
eating meat. You talked about eating meat so much, Marcus. And you said how you love to eat meat and everything. And I didn't have this button ready, so I'm just going to throw it up there now because, God, you need to relax.
It's so wonderful in my mouth.
Stop it. Stop. I got to do it again. If you don't stop, I'm going to do this one.
Oh. So
anyway,
but I mean, it goes back, and I like sourcing things local, like the garden. Watching you grow the garden. If somebody lives in the desert, the first thing I'm telling them about is the hay bale garden. Like, oh, you can't grow in this soil over here. Well, take this hay bale and then scoop it out and fertilize that thing, and then you're gonna have a garden. You can have a garden anywhere you want as long as it's in season. So, because I mean, that's part of us, right? Being self-sufficient anarchists who want to take care of ourselves and our families and help out other people too. Because if everyone was growing little hay bale gardens, then we wouldn't have the mass-produced problems that we have in people over pesticiding their foods, using growth hormones. Like, we could get away with that. So, and more people doing it, but that's the key.
We're in big trouble. Exactly. I'm sorry. Hotep Dutch is the only one with a wrench, and he just reminded me that I said I eat meat with salad. That's bad. Look, I'm
watch that tongue, man. Don't let
I'm gonna pause myself. Just to see if I can repent. I gotta repent of my sins. I'm gonna pause myself. You can't talk about the tossed salad man and eating meat in the same sentence and get away with it. I apologize, Anarch Nation. I will never make this mistake again. Oh gosh, please y'all forgive me.
Formal apology. So, but, and I mean, I'm gonna jump back. And the other thing that I would suggest you do if you want to stay, like, get the accountability going, like, reach out, like, get into the group, like the Hotep Fit group, where we're posting back and forth like every day. If I don't see that post, I'm like, I'm gonna put the post up. I want to see what Crypto Hotep's doing. I want to see what Black Hotep's doing. Like, I want to see those videos. Like, I want to see Trish getting ready for her competition, and I want Trish to kill it when she goes to that competition.
Right. She will, dude. She's in amazing shape.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm envious. I'm not gonna lie. It's like, damn, man, she's in better shape than me. Like, I gotta get on my bonus, on my business. This is ridiculous.
Trish kills it. I felt so bad that she was sick when we got home. So I was like, oh man, she's got to get over it quick, so she can get back in. So
that's a good thing too. So that's another thing though. Like, one of the benefits of doing this is the healthier you are, when something like that hits you, it's like a speed bump.
Yep.
Like when you're not healthy and that shit hits you, it's like hitting a wall. And so it's a whole different feeling. So it's a big deal. Like, there's so many different ways where it's becoming more and more important, because as some of this other stuff starts to happen, you need to be in a position where you can outrun the zombies,
Oh,
or at least outrun the people who can't outrun the zombies.
Right. Sure.
That's what Marty was saying while we were at a P-Dog night while we were over there. And I was like, no, I want to be strong enough so I can carry you with me. Let's go. We're going. So we'll outrun somebody else. Like,
that's good shit.
For sure.
But
see, right now my plan is just to outgun them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, what if you drop your gun?
Oh, right.
Yep.
Right. I get it.
Yep.
Like, it'd be like Eddie Murphy. What the fuck you gonna do now? Drop the pistol when you busted the window.
For sure.
I'm trying. All right, so I'm on a mission. Y'all keep talking, but I'm trying to. I got to figure out how I'm gonna make. I got to make Natasha and Jabari wrenches.
Yeah.
For sure. And I was gonna say, they're giving me
I'm
credit.
I'm not logged in right now, and I got no way to do it at this moment. But I'm working on it, y'all. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Y'all keep it pushing.
So I want to bring it kind of back to a freedom kind of idea. Jimmie, how do you think the link between the mind, which intelligent people tend to whether they're conservative, whether they're conservative, anarchists, libertarians, all of that, but the intelligent people tend, at least my experience has been, to be freedom lovers. How do you find that, and do you think that as you've gotten more fit, that your brain has kind of had to work or gotten more into the grown as well, is what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the way of freedom. So we just came out of 2 years where I would say arguably we were less free than much of our modern history. And a lot of that was because we've relinquished a lot of our health over to somebody else. Mm-hmm. We have turned over the ability to, and not everybody, but a lot of people are okay taking medicines that are full of side effects when they could help themselves. Like, seeing businesses get shut down and people's livelihoods go away because they didn't necessarily have the healthy body free to fight off something that maybe we shouldn't have been as afraid of as we were. But because of our unhealth in general, it created a place where people were completely afraid. And we could say that they were overly afraid, but at the same time, there were so many unhealthy people that had a reason to worry.
They were legitimately vulnerable. Yeah,
absolutely.
Like they were vulnerable to something, and
correct.
And that boogeyman gave the perfect thing for them to be afraid of being vulnerable to.
Correct.
So, yeah,
and you can see that in how many people ran out to get the vacation, like, and how many people didn't forcefully, even under force, a lot of people went and took it.
Yeah.
And that's the scary thing for me is if we're not, like I always say, there's freedom in your health. Like, health is freedom. Like, because if you're healthy and you have the ability and know what your body is capable of, then you're not to be intimidated. Like, but at the same time, like, you have to take ownership of that. And that's where, especially over the last couple of years, I've seen how important it is for people to be free up here, but you got to be free here too.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. Like, I mean, it's the joke that, like, I don't remember what election it was, but Chris Christie always said, like, people would joke on him that he's not going to get elected because he was such a big guy. Right.
Yeah.
He was right.
And exactly. And people do see that as like a certain amount of weakness, even in themselves, if they're that way. Like, they will turn over their self to take statins, or they'll take the medicines so they don't have to change their lifestyle. Yeah. But when we do that, we're giving up the ability to fight off things ourselves. And I think that's a dangerous place to be. And for nothing else, if people get fit, I hope it's that they grow here because they know they can do it. If you start losing weight and you see yourself getting stronger, like up here, that changes everything for you. Like, my whole outlook on things has changed.
Fact.
So
Yeah.
And
well, it's there's a meme actually out there where it's this guy and it's it's like the meme of the kind of Neanderthal cartoon character thing or whatever, where it's like this poorly drawn cartoon or whatever, but it says lift heavy thing and make sad voice go away.
yeah, absolutely.
In a way, it's like it's so simple, but it's so true. Like it's like whatever that thing is and that's what I try to tell people, because I've dealt with stuff in the past of like whether you want to call it depression or just like anxiety or like a feeling of like I don't know, like having a hard time just getting up and doing my daily duties sort of feeling, and like what's the point of like I'm gonna do this like every day in day out forever, and I'm not like I don't see any end to this, and I don't see like any like there's no carrot at the end of this stick, it's just it's all stick and no carrot. When you actually just start putting one foot in front of the other and you act and you move in the direction of your goals, like it's the same way that like the opposite action compounds itself and sends you down a death spiral, that positive action builds this life spiral that like it builds on itself, and you start being, you're like, oh yeah, hell yeah, I did that, that's right. And that's one of the things I will say, like if you think that seeing this thing come out every day when Crypto or Black Mountain Hotep, whichever one of them initiates it, when they throw down the gauntlet, and they either put their video out or they just say we're checking in, who's doing their Hotep fit, when they throw that down there, like I'm gonna be honest, like there are a lot of days where I go through, I'm like, these motherfuckers, like I got shit to do, like I'm sitting here like trying to just make sure I get all the stuff that I need to do done out of the way and all that, and I'm like, and I'm feeling guilty because I'm like I'm not actually going to the gym, and I'm not I can't in good conscience put a check mark there and say like, yeah, I did it. And so I just kind of like let it go by, and then I was like, no, you know what? Like I need to pump them up because like they're out there doing it, and I can't make this about me. But as soon as I start like actually getting my shit going, then when I put my stuff in there, sure enough, like I go out there, I put that thing in there, and then you get like that little uplift from the guys. But you also have, I know. All right, pause. but what you also have is you have that accountability. Like one of the things that I'll say is like the fact that they never took me off that list, kept me in there, because I knew like at some point I had to be worthy of being on that list, and I had to step into that. So in a certain way, like having another group of men are there, like kind of pushing you along and almost in a way shaming you into doing it, it's like this, you feel a certain level of like, man, I better be out there doing it, because like I can't be the only one not checking in every morning. So there's a tremendous, to me, like a growth and a motivation, and also like this compounding principle of like interest, I would guess, where once you start and you get that momentum going, that momentum becomes harder and harder to stop. Because you don't want to break the chain, and you don't want to lose the gains that you've made. And when you're going in the opposite direction, it can be really easy for you to just be like, oh, what's another day? I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it, and it becomes really easy to put it off. So I almost, I'm like, you know what? I'll stop working out tomorrow, and then tomorrow I'll get up and I'll work out again. Like, I'll just stop working out tomorrow. You got to kind of flip that procrastination the other way around. So it's really been tremendous to watch the whole group just kind of go out there and putting themselves and like I said earlier, learning out loud and kind of doing that stuff out loud, so that some people might look at it and think it's kind of weird. Like, why are these guys out there posting their workout pictures or videos or whatever? And it's like, no, but like those of us
cats
who are in there,
better.
yeah, no, but it's like, I feel like it's one of those, if you know, You know, like if you're part of that crew, you know why it's important for us to keep pushing each other that way and pushing ourselves.
So to bring it a new place, and actually, Chad, you actually kind of clued this into me when you were talking, but Jimmie, just have you found? I watched a video on YouTube, I don't know, a week ago that compared the chemicals, not necessarily all of the effects, but the chemicals that you get on, like when you're doing mushrooms, when you're doing ayahuasca, when you're smoking weed, those kinds of more positive drugs. That many of the chemicals that you get are naturally, because most of those actually exist in the human body anyway, that you can access those naturally through exercise. Have you found that that can open you up to spiritual experience through exercise? Have you found that to be the case or anything like that?
You know, it's funny. Whenever I'm in a bad mood, my wife sends me to the gym. She says, get out of here. Like, you need to go.
You need your endorphins.
Yeah. When I try to work out in the morning before I do anything else. Get up, go to the gym, work out. Because if nothing else, my day is always better after I work out. It just is. I feel better. My mind is more clear. You could say it's a euphoria for me. After I jump off, like, people are like, oh, you're on the treadmill. You're just running in place. Like, how could you do that? And I'll tell people, I'm like, that's my discipline. Like, I do that every day as a reminder to keep going. And
I got to bring this back up because, like, you since you name dropped her, we got to bring, got to bring her in. That's where it's at, like it's right there.
Yeah, and she knows, she's aware, and like she's like, yeah, go to the gym, get your fix. Like, and we'll talk about it like that. It is a drug for me. Like, if I don't have it, I start going through the withdrawal phase. Like, I have to have it basically every day. So there's nothing dreadful about it to me. I get to go work out. Like, I get my brain stimulated. Everything just goes different. So,
all right. So I'm gonna bring this into y'all ready to go into like weirdo land? Like, this is just how my brain thinks.
Let's go.
Right, so all right. So we're all grown men. We all got kids. So this should not be foreign subject matter for us. But I kind of think like that exercise workout, whether it's running and getting to the finish line of whatever your run is, or finishing that workout or whatever it is, like, I'll preemptively pause because I don't know, like, there may be something that comes off weird in this, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong. But like, there's a like a certain, like, almost orgasmic sort of breakthrough that happens. Like, there's this, like, you're approaching, and it feels like almost this asymptotic, Anarch chat word, asymptote. We went over this. Hopefully everybody, you've done your studies, you know what an asymptote is. But anyway, like, you feel like
asymptote.
You're getting shut up. You're getting closer and closer, but you're never gonna get there. And then when you finally break through, it's like there's this like 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 it's a whole different vibe on the other side of that. And I think a lot of times because I remember when I ran cross country, I was in like 8th grade, and I remember I used to try to like find something that I could pretend like I sprained my ankle on, so I could like just stop running and go and be like, sorry, coach, I'm out.
Coach, I broke my dick.
Twisted my ankle. I twisted my ankle. Shut up. I twisted my ankle on this rock. So to bring it back to the whole, the orgasmic thing is like, I think there's a life-giving sort of element to it as well, where I think that like that's where some of like our life force is stored and then unlocked in that endorphin break, that endorphin rush that we get from a really good workout, a really good run, really good exercise, where like our body kind of unlocks this, it's almost like neurons connecting or something, where like there's an explosion of energy and a whole different feeling, a whole different mindset that comes from that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So when I'm working out and I'm lifting and I'm doing things that are other than the run mostly, I want to feel like an alpha. Like I'm not out there playing. Like it's not just a game for me. Like I want gains. When I see those other guys posting about gains and hitting new PRs, like I'm in that mode too. Like the competitiveness in me is going to come out and be like, I got to get better. I got to get on my game. And it does. And when I hit those gains and I'm feeling like I push myself that better to the next level, like I hit that. It is. It's euphoric. It's orgasmic. It's the way that I think we're designed like that, right?
Yes.
Like we're designed to hit the next level. Like that's what we should be striving for. We're not complacent. I'm not complacent as an Anarch. Like I want maximum freedom. I'm not complacent as a Hotep. Like I want all the Hoteps to do well. Like I want to do well. Like I'm not playing games. It's just not a game. So
to shift to that, it's been an interesting day, and I wanted to cover a little bit about the events that are happening right now, because all of this stuff that we're talking about with fitness and all of those things are wonderful things. Those are what we should be thinking about. Those are the things that we should be doing. But right now, Vladimir Putin came out today and threatened nuclear war. Outright said that he was willing to use nuclear weapons, and the many people have commented that that he is likely only talking about the Ukraine and dropping like a low yield nuclear weapon on Kiev and basically just demoralizing the entire country and kind of taking over. So what are your thoughts on world events and what's going on right now? It's a crazy world.
Yeah. It's hard to be in a position. So I want what's best for us here, but a lot of the times that will take me to think about the other places. Like, and I start thinking about, it's funny. I don't know how I'm going to put this. So there was a time when you guys had Hotep with it on, you asked him about standing armies. Do we need to have a standing army? Yeah. And the obvious answer was, no, we are the army. Like as an Anarch, like if I care about you, Chad, and I care about you, Marcus, like I'm going to want to defend you guys as fellow Americans, as fellow anarchists, as fellow Hoteps, like
community.
And in that same thing, like we need to be looking out for what's going to do that here for all of us. And when the broad brush of threats are being pushed, and then the people that we expect to protect us are not, I mean, they're putting fuel on the fire. Like that's virtually against, we as people, no matter where we stand, we got to be against some of that stuff, because I'm going to mess this up. I'm trying to articulate this. Like, I don't want what somebody's saying in Washington to reflect bad here, and then we pay the price for it. And that's a lot of what's happening.
Yeah. So, wow. No, you did a good job, I think, of articulating that, because I think that's the problem and that's one of the things that Marcus and I we constantly catch each other and ourselves on, and then and like Nicco too, like we all three like catch each other on this, like that we term when we're talking about the people in DC is very tempting, because that's what we've been trained to do. Like, we went to war and whatever. Like, no, I didn't do shit. I don't know what y'all talking about, but I didn't do it. So I ain't part of that. I didn't do that any more than I got a bunch of Grammys because Jay-Z did. Like it's
exactly
like some other people did that shit, not me.
Right. So I didn't play.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get you. Like, I don't want that stuff to reflect on us. Anyway, go ahead, Marcus.
No. What I was just going to kind of back that up and say that, when people are talking about, without government, then we'll have warlords, all over the place. Okay, you know what we won't have? Here, let me put it up. This is what we won't have. Only statism can offer you the world total annihilation. Anarchist, never going to happen.
Every time I hear that stuff, and I never used to think of it this way. I used to think of like, oh, you know what? That's a good question. What are we going to do about the warlords and blah, 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 whatever BS nonsense someone who's not an anarchist would throw at me. Like, oh yeah, well, if you don't have a bunch of warlords, what are you going to do about when warlords rise up? Right. Like, wait, what? You're seriously, like, every time, and now I realize it, and I call it, I see it, and I hit it right in the face off rip, because I've now learned, oh, all of the stuff that they're doing is projection. They're taking stuff that exists under statism and saying, what are you going to do about this thing that already exists under my religion if you have your religion? And I'm like, first of all, it ain't my religion. I just want us to be free. I want us to stop oppressing each other and trying to put our own religion on other people. And every time, like, it's like, oh yeah, well, what are you going to do about murder? I guess you're just going to let murderers run free like we do now? Like, there's murderers running free right now. And the worst part is there's a bunch of them in Washington, D.C.
Yep. Facts.
Yeah, and these are all, retarded, arguments. None of them. Everyone has heard this one. Everyone.
Yeah, exactly. From Roads.
Yeah.
So
who would build the roads? Who would build the roads? Who would build the roads that existed before government?
Right.
And then they just they're really good at that. They're like they're the I don't know. Like, I almost feel like, so they are like the Elvis Presley of R&B music. It's like they took some shit that already existed and then got on stage and said, "Hey, look, I'm white. I did this." Like, oh, all right, okay. So anyway, it's just, man, what did he say? Oh, I'm helping. Nicco's helping to build the roads now. Oh, that's perfect. I didn't even think about that shit, Nicco. See, Nicco, we need to let Nicco. You need to start like dropping comments in the chat, because Marcus and I will just talk all night, and then you'll just sit back there and like not say anything. And now here you are, you dropping all these jokes, and you're not even here to say them out loud. You got to do the shit, but that's what. So Nicco actually works construction, and so he actually builds roads. So the answer to the question is, who will build the roads? Nicco and his friends, and we will help them. Nicco,
exactly.
That's my answer for now.
So yeah, Nicco can train us. Nicco will be our warlord of roads.
That's right. I'm down with that. I'll gladly kick in a cow for Nicco to build some roads. Yes, so Nicco, we're good.
Nicco will be over the kingdom of roads. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. But yeah, so there's always these things where it's like, well, yeah, but what are you going to do about this random corner case thing that may or may not happen already?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
yeah,
just stop stealing shit from me and stop beating people up for nothing. Because I saw one the other day where the cops like tackled this dude and like beat him to the ground and everything because he was like at a stop sign or something like that, and he was talking to some people and they didn't know what was going on, so they just were like, all right, beat the fuck out of him first, and then we'll figure out what's going on later.
Yeah, like, it's insane. It's insane.
So to continue with that topic, another thing that they're getting ready, that people need to be prepared for, is there is rumblings that they are starting to deploy American soldiers to the east, to around like into Japan, into the Philippines, into those kinds of areas, to into those areas to prepare for a possible Chinese invasion of Taiwan. And barring I agree with you that, we didn't do shit, then I ain't going to be part of that. It looks like that's going to happen. Do you think that do you think that this kind of is in its own bubble? Or do you think that this is more of a coordinated plan, either between Russia and China or the United States trying to build up an enemy? What do you think is going on?
I think it's put my tinfoil on. I think it's coordinated, and I think we're a big part of it. I think when you send politicians over there that don't belong, on a soil that necessarily would or would not be invaded, and you pretend like you're going to do something about it, you are looking for a conflict because you pretended like you were gonna stop it. So if we didn't send Nasty Nancy over there, and she didn't put her foot in the ground like she's actually gonna do something, maybe they would have left it alone. Maybe if we weren't aggravating situations across the whole planet, then things wouldn't get as bad as they are. Like, I mean, let's be honest. Like, what we've been doing is sending money to Ukraine to fight Russia, pretending like we don't have a foot in that game when really we've been having that war. We're the ones having the war. Yeah. Ukraine wouldn't have had the war if they wouldn't have been sending billions and billions of dollars. Like,
and we set it up beforehand.
I was going to say NATO and everything. Like, it's what you go back and look throughout history, and like now you start to like re-examine damn near everything, because it's like, oh, this is the first time this sort of thing has happened, and we've done the same kind of thing where like we create and think about it, like to the smaller scale domestically, it's the same thing. Like, oh, look, these people are involved in creating this thing, scares people. So guess who has the solution? The same people who created the thing.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Isn't that amazing? And what do they need? A lot of money and a lot of new things that they force us to do and force us to take and force us to buy. Like, just, man, I mean, you got to, on a certain level, you got to respect the grift. Like, they're experts at the grift. Like, it's very, very effective. It's not effective on a lot of us, because you know, I'm happily still, you know, I haven't been on vacation in 2.5 years, and the year and a half that they've been offering the fantastic vacation packages, and I'm proud of it. You know, I don't need no vacation.
And it comes down to what you're asking. Like, so one of the hooks that got me was Sunny. Throw out Sunny again. Like, I consider her like, that's my conservative mentor. Like, when you talk about where I got my conservatism from today, that would be Sunny conservatism. Like, and one of the things that I came to realize, looking at our own country, like, we like to look at things abroad and we go outside the scope to figure out, are we involved? Well, if you look at our own cities, like, there's cities in this country where if I lived in those cities, I would be a criminal. Yeah. Because of some of the things that I choose to do, and because of some of the situations that those cities are in. And government is the one that made the cities be that way. They're the ones that took away freedom, they took away rights, they took away ability. And when they took away those things, like, if I lived there, I would choose to be armed in some places that you're not allowed to be armed. I would choose to do side work in places you're not allowed to do side work. And that would be a criminal. I would be a criminal. It would be locational. And that lets you know that the government that is in control they don't have our interests in hand. Like, if they're criminalizing a part of the population somewhere else from me, unfortunately, we've taken it and said, it's over there. Like, I'm not worried about it. It's not here. But that's what's got us where we're at. Like, if you don't think they're going to criminalize us here and do things to us here, what makes you think they're not playing around abroad? You know how much money there is? You know how much resources there are? You know what they need? And they don't want to do it here. They don't want to give us the ability to grow and foster things here. So they're going to take it from somebody else.
Well, yeah, and to that point, it's really interesting that you say that, because you made an idea kind of pop into my head. You know, we hear this thing a lot about, you know, the republic in the U.S. and the fact that, you know, the states are the little laboratories of democracy where things get to be tried out, and, you know, people can vote with their feet and they can move to the places that are trying the things that they like and everything. And I was like, oh shit, Jimmie just kind of like flipped that whole saying on its head. They're laboratories of democracy for these elite oligarchs too. Yeah. Like they use those things. They're like, oh shit, y'all, look over here, we got away with this. And I think this is how we did it. Let's go back and let's examine the evidence. What laws did we have in place before we did this? Oh, we did this. Oh, we disarmed everyone. Oh, we had this already set up in place. We already had everybody like living off of some sort of like universal health care. Oh, cool. We can just deny them health care if they don't do this thing that we want them to do. Or, oh, we got everybody on this new app. Cool. All we have to do is like shut them off on that app. and they're done. Like there's all these different little levers that they can pull. And so in a lot of ways, as I start to think about this stuff and I think about like how certain things are said and the way that they're said, I'm starting more and more now to analyze them from the standpoint of like, what if the bad guys came up with that phrase?
Yeah, for sure.
Like what if the bad guys came up with the laboratories of democracy phrase, and that this laboratory of democracy thing is actually a bad thing? And they're like they're like, hey guys, that Governor Newsom guy, he's on to something, Yeah. Oh, that de Blasio, man, he's got some really cool. He's come up with some nice little concoctions in his lab. Like it's wild. And I want to bring it back to, you talked about guns and Sonny Johnson, and I have to bring this up because you came to Hotep Nation and to us through Sonny Johnson, and Sonny Johnson is so amazing that you gave up a day of shooting guns in Las Vegas with the rest of us to stay and watch Sonny Johnson's show live in person, which not a whole lot of people get to do. We got to see the tail end of it. We got to see when she was interviewing Project Rook, and that was amazing. But you got to see the whole thing. You got to see the famous Uncle Hotep. I don't know, what are they, Coon Court or whatever it was, or whatever where she took him to. Shoot, we have to bleep this out later. But anyway, no. But so talk to us about how you found Sonny Johnson first,
okay,
and then how that kind of led you to where you are now, where you came to HotepCon. And you know all these folks. We all love you. Like we're a big family. We talked about it. HotepCon was like a big family reunion.
It was.
But when Queen Sonny sat down and held court, you were front and center, and you were there for Sonny's Corner live in person from start to finish, even before it started and long after.
So I have a truck that has Sirius XM in it. I've always been political. Coming from a family that runs businesses, it just came with the territory. A lot of the things that I believe to be conservatism, I would say weren't conservatism growing up. And a lot of my family have transitioned through this phase too. Like the bill of goods that we were sold as we, like we're going back to the we thing, like it's not we, it's us and them. So, and we were sold that. So one Saturday I was cruising somewhere. I think I might've been working or not working. And I happened upon Sonny talking about something. And I was upset. I was like, what is she saying? Like, this doesn't make sense. I was like, no. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but she was taking callers and the callers were trying to disagree with her. And I was like, oh yeah, that's the point I'm making. Let's go. And then she just blew it out of the water. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait. So like every Saturday I started trying to find old things, and it was like,
where your wife's selling you out, man.
Right. For sure.
Hey, I got to come home to my beautiful wife, so I get to see her every day. So, and I take her to the range. So
she sounds like my wife. We should probably, we gotta meet up. We gotta meet them up.
I'm getting closer to you guys. In like a month, I'll be closer. Go. So,
all right. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll get. So I kept listening to Sonny, and like there was every 4th of July she does Frederick Douglass. What is Independence Day to the slave? And she went through it, and I had never heard it growing up in the Southwest. In the Southwest, where it's predominantly Hispanic. I mean, technically I would be the minority out here, which is, I never thought about, but it just wasn't one of those things like, and going through how conservatism was developed and looking at the freedom that comes through being Frederick Douglass, like thinking about
Great,
the
dude.
partnership of him and Lincoln, like he brought Lincoln to the position that they were at. Like Lincoln probably would have never got there if it wasn't for Douglas. He wouldn't have.
And he's better than
it
Lincoln.
is.
Lincoln was a tyrant.
Lincoln sucks. Honestly, Lincoln still sucked ass after he
if
was
Douglas
done.
would have been a president, I think he would have been the greatest conservative president of
history.
any era in
For
history.
sure.
Yeah. For sure.
But knowing that means I need to look at the things that he did and try to figure out how do I make that mine? So I mean, Sunny's conservatism, she is pro-black and she knows it. Like she's pro-conservatism and her message resonated with me. I'm not black, but I love it. I love what she brings to the table. And if I can bring that into my life and let that be representative for my conservatism, that's what I want. When people ask me now, like, where did your conservatism come from? I'll say Sunny, but I want to be a Douglas conservative. Like I'm not a new 60s era conservatism that will pass every budget under the book. Like, she just grabbed, she grasped me and she made my mind work. That's that thing, right? We're looking when my mind was working and it changed like that. That was a euphoric moment for me. It was like, man, I had to make the switch. Like I couldn't in good conscience stay with the conservatism that I was running with, knowing what I knew now. It wouldn't have been right. Like I would have been lying and I would have been fake. So, and sometimes I'll talk about like I posted to my friends group, like I'm going on Aquarian Anarchy and they're like, what's anarchy? What do you mean you're an anarchist? I'm like, yeah, let's have the conversation.
Let's go.
So,
right on.
And so different people were on Sunny's show. I saw Hotep Jesus on there. And then I found y'all through posting on between Hoteps and then on Twitter. And I was like, I'm watching this show. Let's go. And I saw Hotep with it on you guys. And I was like, that was hilarious. I love the indoctrination chamber when you guys do it. Like it was one of those things I was like, okay, this is where I want to
bring
be.
that back.
And like, so I'm gonna step back real quick. We were talking about like watching government do what it does to people. Yeah. I think that if there was one point where you guys were talking about all government being voluntary, like right now we are roped into a system that we have no choice over. That's the absence of freedom when you don't have a choice. If we had the choice to participate or not, then they couldn't wrap us into these things. You know what I mean? Like when they go after people to take away their guns, and if we were free, we would say, we're not participating in that. We don't want your government services. Yep. We'll go do what we want. So we'll make our own community. Like, I don't need you. So, but right now that's not an option. They rope you in. So
yeah. Well, and I think too, it's this, so like where it's supposed to be and what we're told it's all about is like holding bad things and bad people accountable so that they don't do bad things. But then what ends up happening is good people are stolen from, good people are oppressed, good people are pushed into corners and forced to do things so that the actual evil people can keep having their way with people.
Yep, absolutely.
And we are helpless to try to I don't know, to hold them accountable. Like you try to all jokes about that day in January aside, like we seriously went from people destroying businesses and burning cities to the ground to like the worst thing in the world is somebody may or may not have put their feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk.
Yep. Yeah. And you know what? Both of those were probably orchestrated by the governments that put out the messages. So, they can't prove it to me that it wasn't. Yeah. I just won't believe it. When I talk to people in the street, like I have friends from all different walks of life. Like we can have a conversation, and when it comes back, pretty much all the time, it comes back to freedom. Me wanting freedom for them and them wanting freedom for me. Sure. I can agree or disagree with their lifestyle choices, but they are free to do that. But there's only one entity that doesn't really want us free because they need the control. Yep. And if they can go absolutes, they will. So
And for me, my conservatism, I'm gonna break people's brains, but my conservatism is Emma Goldman, who is a anarcho-communist.
What the fuck did you just say?
Right.
My man just broke out an anarcho-communist as his conservatism. All right, let's hear it.
But the reason is because...
Hang on. Wait. You can't start until after I do this. First, I have to do this. That's where we're going. That's where we're going. Y'all get ready. All right, now go ahead, Marcus.
So I disagree with Emma Goldman on economics. And if it were my community, I would not set up what she envisioned as her community. But she also would not force that community on anyone. What conservatism is for me is traditional values. Emma Goldman was full of traditional values. Her values just happened to be being a strong woman who would, very much like Sunny is, who was willing to put every single thing that she believed in on the table so that she and the people that she knew could be free. Now, what she did, she argued against, as a woman, argued against women's right to vote because her exact opinion was men can't do it. What fucking makes you think women could? Does it really matter whether you have a dick or not, whether you're going to be good at controlling other people's lives? Conservatism teaches that the family is the place where these kinds of rules, if you will, because anarchism isn't about not having rules, it's about not having rulers. So my conservatism is very much Emma Goldman. It is about adhering to values, adhering to reality as it is, not as some kind of utopia that we think about. It is about real values, real ideas. You know, she placed her friends, her comrades, and her family above everybody else because they were the most important people to her. So yeah, Emma Goldman is my conservative values. And to also go into what you were talking about, Jimmy, they get us to these points slowly. They don't come out with all of this nonsense. You can't do this, you can't do that. What they do, I talked about it earlier, is they say you can't have chickens in the city limits of your town. And I say, go fuck yourself, I'll do what I want. But and face the consequences if I get caught, which I won't, because nobody's gonna tell on me and all that. But what we need to do is stop that. Stop then. Not stop with chickens, because the next thing they'll do, and many communities already do this, is tell you can't have a garden. Tell you that you can, how in the stuff that you were talking about at the beginning of this podcast, when you were talking about all of the food that is at the grocery store been laden with chemicals, and the solution to losing weight and becoming healthier is to a more natural diet, such as raising a garden, getting your own beef, getting your own chicken, getting your own stuff. The government will make that illegal. And so we need to stop it at the chickens so that we can grow a garden. We need to stay and no more laws. You know, they talk real quick.
I'm sorry, continue. Finish. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, they talk about the people in Washington, D.C. as lawmakers. Whether you're an anarchist or a minarchist, or we don't need any more fucking laws. We don't need lawmakers. We need law dissolvers.
Yes. Perfect. Yeah, because what I was going to say is, and that's perfect that you finished with that. If you go back to early 2020, if people had just stood up and said, "No, fuck you, I'm going to keep running my business.
Yep.
I dare you to come try to shut my water off. I dare you to come try to shut my electricity off." And like, if you do, I'm getting a lawyer. We're going to start filing paperwork. We're going to get ready. Like, I'm not taking this shit. And you have no basis, because so much of this stuff was these governors were just coming up with these mandates, and there was no legal basis for it whatsoever. It was just like, hey, emergency, I get to do what the fuck I want to do to everybody. whoever I want. And people were just like, oh, you know what? It's just 2 weeks. Oh, you know what? It's just masks. Oh, you know what? It's just this. It's just next thing you know, like Marcus said, it starts with the chickens, you know,
Yep.
and next thing you know, it's like, oh, you can't grow that. You can't grow your own tomatoes. They already do it with weed.
Yep.
And that's the thing. If you look back, you know, as much as I think that it's important that people have had the victories that they've had on that front over the last decade or so. If you go back and look, so much of this was inevitable, and it was delayed the way it was delayed so that the big money could get their hands around the farming and the manufacturing and make it to where, okay, now and that's why every time, and this is what people like talk shit about, like Gary Johnson. They were like, oh, I love Gary Johnson. He had a great idea. We should just, we should legalize weed. We should just tax and regulate it. Like, you're stupid as shit if that's your solution. You think that, like, the answer to this is to make it to where through regulation and taxation, you make it to where the only people who are going to end up being able to do it are, I don't know, Monsanto or whoever.
Monsanto is doing it.
But that's what I'm saying. When you make it to where through taxation and regulation, if you're not libertarian, if that's your solution to this stuff, is to make it to where, and I go back to like Larry Sharp's thing. He's like, it should be like onions. Like if I grow onions in my backyard, ain't no regulations on that. Like it's just me growing some onions in my backyard. So leave me the hell alone. But they want to make it to where if you want to be happy, if you want to live a life, you have to go through them. There you go. It is exactly Black Mountain Hotep. Slow creeping tyranny. So.
And a lot of what you're talking about wasn't even criminal until after Prohibition. If you look at it, most drugs were legal until Harry Anslinger wanted to keep his job. Like they let a lot of these things happen so that the government hand that was over Prohibition didn't have to dissolve. So then they used New York law to file the first marijuana laws, and then they brought it to the national level, and then they created the strong arm of the FBA, the FDA, the ATF. Like all it did was result in more government. All it resulted in is more taxation. And have we seen any benefits of it? Well, I live 45 minutes from Juarez, Mexico. When I was in college, you could go to Juarez and party. People did it all the time. Now it's the most dangerous city that side of the border because that's where all the drugs that we have let the cartels handle their cash crops. It kills people here on a regular basis, like whether it's through the crime aspect of it, whether it's through overdoses of other harder drugs. But by making all that illegal after Prohibition so the government could keep their job, that's where you get the chemical enhancements. That's where you get the crime part of it. And the crime part of it is worse than the drugs themselves a lot of the time. So you thought you solved. They didn't even think they were solving a problem. They were just creating more government. And then their created government resulted in more death and destruction. That's
absolutely.
When do they do anything else? Like death, poverty, and destruction. That's what they're good at. That's the only thing they're good at.
Right.
So
this comment from Uriel Carmack is perfect. Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll have to pay a license from the state. And it's true though. Like, and so going back to that, like. If you look at like the tobacco industry, for instance, when people in the, you go back to the 16, 17, 1800s, when people were growing their own tobacco, they had their own tobacco farms and everything, it was whatever. And people were smoking it. And I don't know what kind of conditions they were giving themselves or anything like that. But as you started to get to this point where, all right, now it becomes regulated. Now you've got all this other stuff mixed in and everything else. Look at some of the things. How much do we have to worry about like homegrown tomatoes from your grandma's garden versus like if you go to Walmart and you get a tomato, it's like it's got almost no flavor. it may or may not be the right color. If it is the right color, it's because they did something to like make it some weird color that's not really even natural. It's a mutated color, like they do with the bananas.
They paint it.
And then they paint them or like spray some kind of chemical on it that makes it makes the skin react a certain way where it changes colors. But then the other part of it is they're all like this perfect shape. I go to there's this little spot when I'm doing some of my work in Mississippi. There's a spot where this family has they have like some tents set up in a yard somewhere on the side of the road. And bro, like they have like it's overflowing with vegetation. Like there's so many boxes and bins of stuff. There are not 2 tomatoes in that entire bushel and it's probably like 4 Rubbermaid bins full of tomatoes. There aren't 2 tomatoes in there that look the same.
Yep.
Because those are like naturally occurring tomatoes on the vine. And you go to Target or Walmart or something like that, Costco or whatever, and it's like 6 little perfectly formed tomatoes that they've all like genetically engineered to make this perfect round shape. And it's like, yeah, but I don't eat food for what it looks like. I eat food for like what it tastes like, and what it's supposed to do for my body, like what the nutrition that I'm supposed to get from it. And so I wonder, if you took the weed industry and I would argue almost that in some ways it was better before they made it legal, because the illegal stuff, people were finding ways to grow it on their own, and you probably got healthier, better stuff. Now, if you're going to have to go to Monsanto to get your legal weed, you're worse off than if you were already there. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to end up, you're going to have all these preservatives, all these pesticides and all this other shit that no person growing their own stuff would spray on their own stuff.
Correct.
Right. Or
would put in their own soil. But these other big corporations, they're trying to like weed the whole countryside, So I don't know. Yeah. GMO weed. There you go.
Yep. Facts.
Yeah. And, I want to hit on what Matthew said here. He said, issue a notice to your state that you will be undertaking action under your inalienable sovereign rights and give them 14 days to refute your notice, then go about what you please. I'm not going to do that. And the reason I'm not going to do that is because the state does not give a fuck about your paperwork. If it's not one of their papers that they have put out, that's all they care about. And if they had some law where you could do that and they didn't want you to do whatever it was they're going to do, they're not going to allow you to do it anyway. They do not follow their own rules. They're not going to follow yours. And so I say, fuck them. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. I live freely.
Yeah, they will look at that and they may not directly respond to it, but under their breath, they will say, fuck around and find out.
Right.
Because that's what they do. They're like, oh, all right. And then also they're like, all right, we know where this guy lives and we know what he's planning on doing. Let's anyway, I think the better approach is for us to just do our thing and build, and you have to be smart. Like you gotta, I think, I go back to, like Khalid Muhammad and where he talked about, you're behind enemy lines and you got to act like it, like in a certain way. We have to treat this as though we are inside a prison camp. Okay. And so, we got to, like, when the guards are coming around, you just kind of be like, all right, okay, they're gone, do that sort of thing. I don't think it's smart if you're in prison to be like, fuck you, guard, watch this, I'm going to do this shit you told me not to do, because then they're going to just come and beat the shit out of you again, unless you really are about it that much that you like getting those beatings just to see who gets tired first. But I don't know how many people have that in them. So what we need to do is kind of operate as though we're living in prison, but we're trying to dig our way out. We're trying to escape, and we're trying to have our own little kind of prison economy while we're doing it, trading cigarettes and playing cards and whatever whatever little shit we're doing for extra commissary. So you have to kind of, in a certain way, I saw somebody talking about this. You kind of have to have one foot in and one foot one foot out at the same time, because we are literally living in prison. And so some of our time has to be spent underground digging and making our way out. And the rest of the time has to be up above ground, pretending and playing the charade so that they don't get onto us and come, dynamite the fucking tunnel we were digging.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And talking about the economy, the Fed raised rates by, I think, 0.75% today, which is probably just the beginning. Do you have any thoughts on that, Jimmie?
Yeah, I mean, okay. So I think the way the Fed is handling this is from the side of government. By raising interest rates, basically, to me, they're not saying, government, you need to cut back on the things that got us into this position in the first place. What they're telling me is citizens need to lose their jobs so that you guys can't afford to buy anything, so that eventually the cost of whatever you want to buy is going to be coming down, because the businesses can't justify charging people that can't afford it.
Right.
This is unelected government doing unelected government things
Pseudo-government.
that ultimately affect the people, and their solution is to hurt us. It's not to hurt government. If it was, then they would have cut spending. If it was, they would have scaled back their agency.
Right.
If it was, the people that let this get out of hand in the first place would have been fired, but they're not.
Yep.
They're managing it for government. They're not managing it for us, or it never would have got here. Plain and simple.
Absolutely. And the whole point of the Fed was to circumvent the people and pull wealth from the middle class. That's the point. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 was written by banks. That should tell you everything that you need to know. This is, and anyone who thinks that the monetary policy that they're doing is to benefit anyone other than those banks and the government that sucks on their dick, then they need to take a moment and look at the value of the dollar over 100 years. We have lost over 95% of the value of the dollar since the Fed was enacted. They are not helping in any way.
Facts.
Well, and the other thing is too, you can't alter supply side inflation by just changing the Fed funds rate. What the fuck? Like, you have destroyed the productive capacity of the whole world for the last 2 years. And now you're going to just pretend as though if we just, I don't know, fuck around with the interest rates, we're going to somehow change the fact that, like, there ain't enough shit for the people that want to buy the shit, and the highest payer gets the shit that because I see this in our industry. We got truck drivers that they're like, hey, look, here's the deal. I can bring this to you tomorrow. Or bring this stuff, not to you, but bring this stuff for you to its destination tomorrow. But you're gonna have to pay this much, and I want you to wire me the money as soon as I send you a picture of the receipt that it's been delivered. As soon as I send you a picture of the signed paperwork that I delivered it. Like, instead of like, I'm gonna pay you, net 30, net 15, or anything like that. It's just like, it's to the point now where if you want your shit delivered on time, or if you want your shit, if you want to jump the chain in the pecking order, you have to pay the premium. And that's the way it is. You have a limited supply. You've got to deal with it by paying higher prices to get what you want, or just do without. And until people get to the point where they're willing or just through necessity have to do without, the prices aren't going to change no matter what you do with the Fed funds rate. And to your point about like this, people not working, that's another part of it. Like with this CBDC nonsense, is they're part of what they're trying to tie it to is UBI. That's how the UBI is going to be enacted. Is everybody's going to get their little CBDC wallet, and they're going to just start wiring you, $1,000 a month or whatever, Andrew Yang style, except that don't do anything that they don't like. Don't not take the medical treatment that they want you to take. Right. Don't say something wrong on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, don't think at all. Don't not send your kids to get their gender influenced by some public school teacher in 3rd grade or whatever. No, you must do all those things, and you will continue to get your $1,000 UBI. If you don't think that's what's coming, I would recommend that you look at the path that, let's just take one very simple example. Let's just look at Disney, the Disney Channel and Disney content over the last several decades, and look at how they got everyone to like fall in love with this stuff so much to the point that people are attached to it and don't want to let it go because they remember there's some like nostalgia with it and everything. We see all the stuff that everybody's all up in arms about, the Little Mermaid. Why you give a fuck about that fish woman? Like, seriously, let it go. You shouldn't be watching Disney to begin with. Okay. So, but everybody's obviously so like emotionally attached to the Little Mermaid that they're up in arms about this shit right now. So what they're doing is they're okay with letting Disney teach their kids all this other shit because they don't want to let go of the Little Mermaid. We're going to talk about the fact that the Little Mermaid's black. She's a black redhead underwater swimming like a fish. She's gonna grow legs and come up and marry a white man who was wearing a dress last year. And y'all worried about the fact that she's black. I'm just saying.
For sure. I don't have anything to say to that. Yeah.
And you nailed it. It's exactly where they're going. I happen to think like most of the crypto incidents that have happened over the last really 6 months, I think they were driven for that very purpose. I think actual crypto industry is terrifying for government because it gives people a road that goes around government. It's the same reason that they wanted to know when $600 was leaving your bank account or what you were using it on. It's the same reason that there's 78,000 IRS agents. Like if they're going to need that to comb through your CBDCs, and they're going to pull what money they want out, and they're going to put what money they want in. And if you think you can get around those terms of service, you're out of it. There's a reason that they do the things that they do and they move like they move. They want you to be afraid of crypto that's actually decentralized and goes around government. Like Terra Luna, all these different things that crash, the way that liquidation was pulled out. There's really only a handful of people or government that could pull out the necessary funds that they did. And to ignore that fact and not think that they're going to give you a safe alternative pretty soon, I don't know what to tell you. And there's going to be people that don't want to hear that and will say, no, that's not right. You're just being overblown. But there's nothing in government history that makes me think they won't. So
you're absolutely right. And they've recently shown that they're willing to do that. In Colorado, they did not allow people to turn their thermostats up because people of Colorado, like California, allowed them to put in government-controlled thermostats in their house. And they got them by saying, hey, we're going to cut, so much money off your bill every month if you do this smart meter and blah, blah, blah. And people agreed to it. And one of the things they did when they did that was they upgraded their thermostat for free, and now when they wanted to set their thermostat to 70, they said, that's going to be at 68. So the government has already shown that they're absolutely willing to control that, and I agree with you 100%. And for those that aren't into crypto at all, start with Bitcoin, but don't stay there. Definitely start looking at some of these altcoins. I myself am looking at Monero, and the primary advantage to Monero is that it really is what Bitcoin used to say that it was. It is more of a real challenge to the establishment. But just to plug them for a little bit, hopefully they'll wind up coming along and say, hey, we want to, anyway. But yeah, but no, definitely look into crypto. I think it is a good way. Frankly, right now in my situation, crypto is one of the only reasons I'm afloat right now. It's become a real nice thing, but I think also, Jimmie, you have a really good point. I watched, a couple Decembers ago as crypto went through the roof, and I put it in my brain because I know how people like the Oros guy that starts with an S that we're not allowed to talk about. Yeah. I watch how he cripples things, and what he does is he buys a bunch of something and then divests himself of it. And I think what we're seeing right now is that divesting of crypto after they bought a shit ton of it. And I should have cashed in some several months ago, but I didn't. And but yeah, so I do think that you're right about that.
Unfortunately, I don't like to be right about certain things. Yeah. So.
You've been real right tonight. You've been a joy. So I guess
I'm learning. That's what I'm here for. So,
but well, it's a great journey, kind of finding these different pathways to freedom. And I think the biggest thing is the first step to like pursuing freedom, like truly pursuing freedom, is to free your mind up, to open your mind up, to not have that immediate cognitive dissonance that shuts you down and makes you like callous and closed-minded to ideas that don't necessarily jive with what you have always thought. Because a lot of what we've always thought is crafted and painted and I guess informed by some really crappy information that we've been given through the indoctrination that we all received as we were growing up as kids. Some of us were fortunate enough that we had parents who, and I gotta thank my parents. Like, even though they were statists for the most part, there was still always this like little sort of like something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but like something ain't right, and this isn't. I'm trying to find. My dad voted for Ross Perot in 1992. Like he was one of the few people who I say few. There were a lot of people who did, but he was one of those people who actually was somewhat ahead of the curve on like, hey, these other two parties kind of suck. I'll do anything to, what's the best chance we have of getting rid of one of them at least for the presidency for one go round. And so you watch that sort of stuff and you start to see like, okay, maybe there are multiple ways to skin this cat, but I think if you start down the road of finding people who really, really challenge, like you talked about with some of the stuff that Sonny was saying, and how you're like, wait a second, like I kind of disagree with this, but at the same time, like I can't stop watching. You know what I mean? Like it's like when you get to that point, it's like, all right, there's a breakthrough on its way. You just have to find a way to like reconcile, because when there is that cognitive dissonance, if you can let that be, back to our exercise, our brain is a muscle in so many ways. If you allow that tissue to break down through that cognitive dissonance, so that then it can rebuild stronger and with some different connections, different blood vessels kind of, interconnecting and everything, get some more blood flow there, you're much, much better off, because now you found a way, your body has found a way to reconcile things that shouldn't reconcile if you kept your old way of thinking.
Yeah.
But now that you have this new way of thinking, you found a way like, oh, okay, wait a second. So I get how we can't do the blue and the Molon Labe thing together, because the blue is who's gonna Molon Labe.
Yep. Exactly.
So Jimmie, I want to before pitching this over to you to let you kind of wrap it up, because we are approaching about an hour and 40 minutes. I've really enjoyed having you on. You're wonderful in the Anarch chat, and I advise people for $5 in our Patreon. We're not making a bunch of money. For $5, you do get access to that. You're one of my favorite people. You're in our Anarch chat, and I appreciate the things that you put in there. I appreciate the the constant conversation, but being able to really, because we briefly talked at other times, but really get to dig into you. You are very interesting people and or an interesting person, and your ideas. I think I'm gonna try Elk Meat and see what goes on with that.
All right, that's two. You said you're gonna dig into them, and then you said you're gonna try Elk Meat. Hey, look, hey, chill, relax.
There's the piece of me that just loves the meat, so it's just
bro.
Awesome.
You can't do that voice either. That's off limits. No.
It's the gingerness. I know.
It's the frogs. There's the water.
I've been drinking too much of the frog juice.
Too much. You've been drinking that Eric Adams tap water all the way in Indiana. Holy shit.
But no, I've really appreciated you tonight, and I will definitely keep you updated because I am trying to lose weight, and right now I'm mainly on diet, but I once I get my finances together, I do want to try to see what I can do with maybe a machine or something like that to move in that direction. But I also like your input with the topics of freedom. And so I also want you to cover where people can find you. Your links are in the down below, but I want you to plug anything you want. So last word is yours.
Yeah. So, it's been a blast. I love hanging out with you guys. And like Chad was saying earlier at Hotep Nation, it feels like a family. And this feels like some family members hanging out. Yeah. So the community aspect that we have is Hotep Anarchs, Anarch Hoteps. Like we can build things together as a community. And by building as a community, we have the ability to say no to other things that that try to affect our community. So, I mean, I love the strength that we see. I'm on Twitter. I'm Jimmie Doss on Twitter. I took that before I was Hotep. So, and then I actually have a video game channel where I get on and I talk about health and fitness. And I'm Carnivore Dad on Twitch. So, I just play Mario Kart and do silly things and hang out with people. I'm always around. I'm always open. If you want to DM me, my DMs are always open. I'm always available to help. So when I started getting healthy, I found a lot of freedom. I found a lot of positivity. And if nothing else, in my next transition, when I'm moving to East Texas, like I'm gonna start growing a little farm. I'm gonna become even more self-sufficient. And if I can help people get to those points, like regardless of what it is, if it's how do I start a treadmill workout? Well, start by walking. Don't walk before you can't run before you walk. Let's go. If you want, why do you eat the way you do? What's the science behind it? If that doesn't work for me, can you help me with another plan? I'm always down to help because who else is going to do it? Like we all need different people in our sphere to help us do those things. And if I can help people grow and get healthy, whether it's mentally, physically, I'm about it. So I'm always just cruising. You can find me, message me on Telegram, Twitter. I have Instagram, like Jimmie Doss on all of them. I'm not afraid of anybody. So my real name is out there. You guys know where to find me. Like,
there you go.
I'm all about help. So
awesome.
No, we appreciate you. We appreciate that. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that we're missing Nicco tonight. Nicco called me out for throwing the Aquarian Anarchy Indoctrination Chamber spiral up on the screen without giving out a warning. He said, "You ain't shit for not warning anybody." Love you, Nicco. But I got to bring this up. Like Nicco suggested that we do this, and I think it's an appropriate time to do this. He suggested that we should throw the quote up at the beginning and at the end of the show, and I think that's a really good idea. So let's bring this one back up. Thomas Jefferson said, "A strong body makes the mind strong." And if tonight hasn't been an example of that, I don't know what would be, because this has been a great way of kind of melding those two parts of the human experience together. But I gotta say, like you were talking about treadmill workouts and getting on and like starting off with walking, I would suggest, so like what I've done, I do this couch to 5K thing where there's an app, it takes you through, and it'll say like you do like a 5-minute walk warm up, and then you start jogging, and then you walk. It's like jog for a minute, walk for a minute and a half. I would say you can even do an app like that. And if you're not ready to run yet, when it says walk, you can do a slow walk to warm up, and then you can just walk a little faster when it says jog, and then slow back down again when it says to walk, and then speed back up again, and get your body. Because what you're doing is you're doing a lot of, especially if you haven't done a lot of exercise in a while, you've got to get a whole lot of different things, especially when you're older, back into shape. That's your lungs, like your whole respiratory system, your circulatory system, your muscles, your joints, all those ligaments and tendons that are maybe a little tighter than they've ever been before. You've got to get all of that stuff working its way into shape. So I've often cautioned people, because I do this like with my parents, and when you're dealing with people who are older, sedentary, or anything like that, it's very important that you don't overdo it early on. Because if you overdo it early on and you either injure yourself or at the very least like cause a lot of soreness, you can actually set yourself back a lot.
Absolutely.
And then you end up giving up because you feel like, oh, well, I can't do this. So I would say like take it in bite-sized pieces, build yourself up. You've got to build your stamina. You've got to build your muscle and joint resiliency. You've got to make it to where you can kind of work through some of the pain, because the pain's not too major. But if you go too hard, too fast, then you can actually like make it to where you hurt yourself so much in the first 2 days that you can't do anything for a week.
Yep.
And then you're right back at square one again. And then it's easy for hopelessness to set in when you do that. So it's very important to pace yourself and build your way up. Like you didn't start off running 100-meter sprints back to back when you were doing this. you had to work your way up to where you are.
Yeah, your health is about you. So if somebody is telling you you need to do something that's outside of your ability and comfort, they're not thinking about you. You have to consider what is for you, because that's who you're working for. You're working for you. So, I mean, if something doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel right. Transition, like that's the beautiful thing about working out for yourself, is you can transition into the things that you are capable of, and it's not wrong. If you're doing something to get started and it feels awkward and sluggish, but it doesn't hurt, you're doing something awkward and sluggish, but it's going to get better.
Well, and that's one of the things I love about the Couch to 5K app and that approach. I had never done it before, but my wife did it, about a decade or so ago. And so I started doing it. Like, I notice that as I start going, like that first time when I'm running a minute and then walking for a minute and a half, that minute is difficult. And some of that is also like how fast are you running or whatever. But then like by day 3, I'm like, oh man, I could have gone a little bit longer, and then you get to the next week and it's like, okay, well now I got to run for a minute and a half every other time. And it's not just that 1 minute run. So then like that minute and a half run it kicks your ass at first. And then at the end, you're like, oh, this isn't that bad. Well, by the time you get to week 3, week 4, and it's saying, you got to run for 3 minutes straight before you can walk again, that kicks your ass at first. And then you build up to the point where you're like, oh, okay, this ain't shit. And so it's all about working your way through that uncomfortable period. Don't push yourself through, where it's like painful and you feel like you're injuring yourself or anything like that. Listen to your body, but it's okay to like power through some uncomfortable, working through those growing pains. So yeah, this is awesome.
Women are really good at working through that uncomfortable period.
Oh my gosh. This was a good show, Marcus. Holy shit, man. I got nothing.
Kids today.
I had a blast. It was awesome.
Great having you here, man.
You're worse than my kids, Marcus.
I know. It's great.
Oh my god. All right, everybody.
Stay free.
Peace, y'all.